to Open Dialogue here on Ahlebait TV. I welcome you all, dear viewers watching, and thank you from wherever you are around the world. I appreciate your support, and whichever platform you're streaming from, welcome. Tonight we continue with our series discussing social current issues, and we are here discussing another topic with an amazing guest from across the world, and we're going to be helping each other to sort of deliberate about the power of our mind. Without further ado, I would love to introduce my guest, Brother Hussain Charara. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sister. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for your time and being here. Whereabouts exactly are you streaming from tonight?
It's from Dearborn, Michigan, in the States. It's 3:30 now, but alhamdulillah.
Mashallah. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And I've heard a lot about Michigan and how much activity is going on there. So maybe if we have time, we'll go into that as well with the community work that you do. So when we discuss the power of the mind, it is mainly to help us with our behaviors and to receive what we do in life. Could you elaborate with the importance and maybe a definition as to why we have chosen this topic?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. May His peace and blessings be on our beloved Prophet and His immaculate Ahlebait salawat. So, my background is in behavioral science. We started an Islamic school in Michigan. As you know, Michigan is outside of the Middle East, is the most condensed area of Muslims. It's basically the Middle East outside of the Middle East. And since 2007, I decided to make a change, to really see what is the human really potentials. In the last 13 years, I realized we really limit ourselves through our thoughts. So the destruction of the mind, the simple definition of the mind is the brain in action. That's what the mind is. Just like a feeling, that's the language of the body. And when you have, within your mind, you have thoughts. So thoughts are the language of the brain. And the way you think, act, and feel, that's your personality. And your personality determines your personal reality. So if there's things outside of your reality that you don't like, then you have to change your personality. And that's what's difficult. Because a lot of people think change is consciousness. And it's not. That's the mind. The subconscious is the brain, is the body, I'm sorry. So what does that mean? That means somebody tells you, well, start praying on time. You want things to happen on time? Start praying on time. You want to understand the universe. You want to understand yourself. Read the Quran. Understand the ayahs. And somebody would say, okay, yes. Just like, I'm friends with an NBA player. And he was the Stephen Curry of the 90s. His name was Brother Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. And he
I've had him on the show. I've had him on the show before, and he's coming again. Yes.
Yes.
Salaam alaikum, Syed. Sorry, I have to. Alaikum salam. Thank you for joining us. We're discussing the power of the mind. Brother Hussain is going to continue with his definition quickly. It's an amazing topic. So you were talking about Brother Rauf also being part of this.
People say, I want to make the MBA. Or people say, I want to become Hafiz of Quran. Or people say, yes, I should pray on time. So consciously, let's say if we hear Maulana Syed speak, say, wow, that was a beautiful presentation. That made me think. But consciously is not how we change. Because if that were the case, then the Prophet would have changed everybody. But as soon as sometimes the Prophet would leave the people would either backbite, they would slander, they would do things. Well, the reason why is because the body takes over the mind. So let's say somebody wants to make the MBA. I'd be like, well, Brother Mahmoud woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day. Yeah. And he went and shot hoops. And somebody says, okay, I'll do that. So 5 o'clock in the morning comes. The mind says, go out and shoot hoops. What does the body say? You're just like your friends. You're no good. You can't do it. And if you can't think greater than the way you feel and you listen to the body, you're going to go back to sleep. See, the best example we have is the Prophet. And everybody knows that consciously. But it's our subconscious habits, ideas, and beliefs that if we don't overcome that, then we're going to keep living the same versions of our life over and over. So I deal with addicts. I deal with marriages. I've dealt with people with cancer, and I just show them the potential, because everybody wants happiness, and happiness is meeting an expectation in life. And when do we become unhappy? Is when we don't hit that expectation. Our marriage is falling apart. We're not happy with our body. We're not reciting Quran like we're supposed to be. We're not happy. It's because we haven't reached an expectation. Happiness is when you reach it or exceed it. So I tell the person, okay, what could you do to change the expectation? To change your habits and your training to meet those expectations. And most people want to blame. It's my husband's fault. It's my boss's fault. It's my ex's fault. And they're waiting for something outside of them to change inside. I mean, if you read Surah Ad-Duha, right, where the people came and started questioning the Prophet, the troublemakers, you haven't received revelation in weeks. That means God isn't happy with you. That means God is displeased. Then an ayah revealed, I'm not displeased with you. I'm not unhappy with you. And not only that, what's to come is much better than the present. The people are troubling you. You're going to take Mecca over. You're going to get rid of the idols. If you only knew.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You've raised so many points. You've raised many points, and I'm going to come back to you on that, because I know that we can talk on so many levels here, as we have done so. I just want to quickly bring in the Syed. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for joining me. I also want to remind the viewers that it is a live call-in show. If you have any questions for Brother Hussain or the Syed or myself, please do call in with your queries, your questions, or any comments that you have. It's really important that you do participate. This is your platform. This is why we have the shows, in order for you to gain the knowledge. And we can obviously direct the conversation, but you have the option to also have that involvement. So it's really important, Syed, that we understand that a lot of the times people are now also trying to look into the way in which we live, as in we want to use our Islam like it's actually said, that it is the way of life. But unfortunately, unless you are in self-development, unless you are taking certain courses and actions to actually develop your sense of understanding, your mind, your human nature, psychology, and we don't really feel that we need to take a degree in it. I've studied so many courses, which is NLP, and we have understandings of changing minds and habits. So what would you encourage? Because in the Quran, it even states in one of the ayahs, and I'm sure you can probably quote it, about our condition does not change around us unless the condition changes within yourself. So that alone shows how much we have to do work on ourselves, and self-development is essential. What more do we need to sort of elaborate in order for us to understand that the problems are not just outside which affects us, but actually in ourselves?
Bismillahir-Rahim. Yes, of course. I mean, one of the conditions is correct, and look at ourselves first, and then expand preaching and guidance to others. Every single soul, according to Quran, is responsible for themselves first. They have to purify and then increase the knowledge. So, and that is another condition that we have to give importance to in our life, as a community, as an individual, both. And yes, absolutely, there is no doubt that Islam is a way of life. I remember once I was hospitalized in hospital, and the person next to me was a priest, I mean, from a church, and he found out that this is scholar. So the first thing he said to me, but your religion is not a religion, it's a way of life. I said, yes, and we are proud to believe in a religion which is a way of life. And then he said, because his understanding, and majority of the people in the world think like that, religion should be just like a dogma, and that you have to accept it without without understanding, without questioning, without believing in it. You just have to accept it, whatever you have been told, and you just get on with your religion as a religion and as a dogmatic religion. Islam is not like that. Islam teaches us to think. I mean, we, especially in Shia madhab, we have taqleed, but we don't have taqleed in aqidah, in faith, in beliefs. In beliefs, every individual has to reach to the conclusion why he or she believes in God, why they have to believe in justice of God, why they have to believe in the necessity of prophets, why they have to believe in the necessity of imams, why they have to believe in the day of judgment. We all need to have our own individual reasonings, and every single individual in this world may think differently, but the target and the achieving point is one, and that is
Absolutely.
worship of Allah Ta'ala and His recognition.
Thank you. That is really, really amazing how you've explained that. And again, it sort of coincides with what Brother Hussain was actually introducing at the beginning. Brother Hussain, do you think maybe there's a problem in the way in which we are taught Islam? That's why we may have that sort of issue of not understanding the ways in which we need to actually practice and make it a way of life.
I do. When people come to me and they've hit adversity in life, I've never lost to suicide. A person called me a suicide or drugs. But a simple example most recently is when somebody came to me and said, I don't want to live anymore. I said, why? He said, well, I lost my job. And this is a faithful person who prayed on time. He would recite from Miftah Jinan, he would Sahif Sajadiyah, he recited the dua. But what happens is we're in such a gratification age, an age of looking for certainty, and we've lost patience because everybody wants things instantly. And things that you cannot get instantly are meaningful relationships, especially with your Lord. Because if your thoughts are always out there, that when you're praying, you're thinking about your ex or you're thinking about your boss or something to do, that we've been told what to say during prayer, but many of us have never been taught how to pray. Where how you're so present with Allah that you don't need anybody else but Allah. Because Allah says, worship me and ask me for help. Don't worship anybody else. Just ask me first. But if your mind is elsewhere, like we know when somebody's present with you. Like right now, Sister Fahima, if I was on my phone while I'm speaking, I'm not present. And most of us, because of our thoughts. That's why our scholars like Maulana and the other scholars that I really revere, especially Khomeini, he wrote a book on the disciplines of prayer. Just in the first chapter was how to concentrate. We've never been taught. So why that's significant, somebody would come to me and say, okay, what do I do, brother? I lost my job. I don't want to live here. I haven't moved. I said, okay, where do you want to work? Because Allah says in Ad-Duha, you'll be pleased. So instead of thinking every day of the past, and you're reliving the past every day, and your body doesn't know the difference between the past and you thinking about what happened 10 years ago or 2 days ago, your body relives it. It's the same. I said, what do you want to do? So I want to work for the state. I want to be a civil servant. I want to help people. I said, okay, pick a dua to do. When we believe Imam Hussain alayhi salam would give people like dua mashlul, and the people would be healed from paralysis. Scientists just now are figuring out how to change brain frequencies to discover that. We've had that for 1400. We know Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam would heal people that were blind. He would have these miracles. He would forecast the future of people saying, if you don't change, this is what's going to happen. I've done it before. Where I've told somebody, your past is predicting your future. And if you don't change is that not making the same choice as you're going to die. And I've gone to those funerals. And I've also done the reverse. Like this brother said, what do you want to do? I said, okay, so he said, I want to work for the state. So he picked the dua from Miftah Jinan, started reciting it. And he started learning. I taught him how to focus, where you don't think of anything else. And then after the dua, you envision yourself working for the state. This is what we call mental rehearsal. The Prophet ﷺ did it the same. When he signed the treaty to go into Hajj, the companions were saying, what are you doing? And they were questioning him. They said, this is the first time we questioned the Prophet. But the Prophet had a vision greater than any reality that they could see. And now we have to do the same. So when adversity hits us, Allah says it's just a trial, it's a setback. Look, it won't stop you from the destiny. If it did, when Yusuf was thrown in the well, and that would have stopped him from his destiny, Allah would have never have allowed it to happen. But that's why, but he allowed it, but it didn't stop him from his destiny. So when you get thrown in a well by human beings, when you get slandered, it's not going to stop you, but you have to be greater than your environment. So this brother did that.
Absolutely.
He called me and said, brother, I see Cadillac. Everywhere I see is Cadillac. Then he called unemployment, because in Michigan, everybody was receiving unemployment because they got laid off. The lady in unemployment said, you know, I like you. Why don't you work here? This was 1 week after the prayer. And he said, okay. And he got the job. And now he's helping Muslims that are having trouble with unemployment get their unemployment. He went to go pick up his laptop from downtown Detroit, and he picked it up from the Cadillac building. See, Maulana said it right. You gain knowledge. But that's for the mind. To have the heart in sync, the body works through experience. So then I'll ask that person, next time he's hit with adversity, would he ever go back to despair and sadness? No, because now he became present with Allah and he knows the system. That's the power we have within Islam, especially through the Shia school of thought, especially through the du'as that we have. And we need to utilize that and experience that. Most of the time when we think of prayer, our parents have told us to avoid hell or to go to heaven. It's much deeper than that. And that's
that is so true. That is so true. And I think what you've highlighted is so enlightening and refreshing. And we need people like yourselves who are actually true role models to give this and spread it, because I know you help a lot of individuals in this. Syed, when it comes to our faith, do you think that individuals nowadays need to have better understanding of having that individual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order for us to actually build ourselves? And if we do, what are the steps that we need to take? So that I like the takeaway on the show where someone can go away, maybe taking away one of something that we have said tonight so that they can actually do to make these changes. What would be your sort of guidance for taking away, something that can bring someone closer with connection?
Well, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, the self-purification is the best tool. And once you have done that, then you have to keep your lifestyle Islamic. And according to Islamic narrations and hadith, when you're living your lifestyle according to Islamic teachings, every single breath that you take is considered as worship. For example, if you're going to work, you are careful not to do something haram. You are careful not to be oppressive to the people who are working for you, and you are polite with your clients, and you are literally worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you are living Islam in your daily life. Worshipping does not only mean to sit down in musalla and face the Kaaba and keep reciting zikr and tasbih, and the minute somebody needs help, you are the last one to help. That kind of worship is not acceptable. If you, for example, if you are in the middle of problems, middle of corruption, and you are able to practice your Islamic lifestyle, you are the greatest worshipper. My teachers used to say it's not an achievement to live beside Mecca and Medina and Qom and Mashhad and all these holy shrines and claim to be religious. If you really want to see who is a true believer, you should test those who are living in the middle of corruption and living a Muslim lifestyle and guiding others with their lifestyle towards Islam, and that is the true meaning of Islam. You live your life according to Islam, then every single thing it becomes a worship of, even if you are having intimacy, as long as you are taking care of what is halal, what is haram, your intimacy becomes a worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well.
You know, you've raised such important points, and it really does make this conversation flow so exquisitely, because it's not just about the salah, it's what's in between your salah that makes a difference. Your actions and your behaviors. Again, you know, we have lots of people on platforms that are speaking, and behind the scenes do not represent exactly what they say. So it's really about your actions behind closed doors and towards each other. So we need to be very mindful of that. That alone, like Syed has said, is worship in itself. Brother Hussain, how would you help people that are having difficulty with this? Because even though we are saying what we're saying and we're elaborating about changing habits and giving ideas as to what to do, now practically, again, to you, practically, what can we do? There are certain techniques and steps. I know even in my NLP studies, you know, it takes a few times to identify your triggers and, you know, work through it. And there's certain techniques that we do in order to help people change and reprogram their, you know, actual brain and thinking. Is there any take you can share? So if anyone's going through adversity right now, they can actually understand. Obviously, it's not going to happen just in the show, but something that they can actually use and take further in their own time, that, you know, that's going to give someone something practical to take away about changing their habits from, you know, being even good to better, let alone bad to good.
Well, it's being present. Prayer is a form of meditation where it becomes familiar with thyself. That's what meditation is. And the true prayer is when it ends, that's when it begins. That you just prayed about forgiveness. You just prayed about worship. So then you're tested. So that's like the Maulana said, I would go to Friday prayer and there'd be a long, because we know we have a huge Muslim population, there'd be a long line and people would be beeping, people would cut each other off.
Yeah.
I say, just a half hour ago or 20 minutes ago, you were listening to a speech about forgiveness. As soon as you were tested, you failed. So that prayer didn't carry over. If you could stay consistent with that through a day, where you try to, let's say, start with one day without sinning. And then at the end of the day, you ask yourself, how'd you do? In the beginning of the day, say, who do you want to be? Who do you represent? Who in history should I try to emulate? No better than the Prophet and his family. Say, how long can I sustain that and make that a habit? But it's interesting is the ego comes in. The tabiyah comes in. And as soon as somebody cuts us off, we're beeping. As soon as our husband says something negative, we have to say something negative. He started it. It was because of him. And we have no act of forgiveness. That's why being grateful for your past, waking up in a state of grateful, being grateful for your future. Somebody says, how am I grateful for my future? It hasn't happened. It's unknown. I said, make the unknown known. Close your eyes and ask your Allah, where do you want to be? Who do you want to become? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And what choices do you have to make today, decisions in your life to get there? And stop. Most of us are waiting for something outside of us to feel joy, outside of us to feel gratification. No, you'll be waiting forever. You have to change your personality. You have to learn to love yourself. You have to have a spiritual moment within, and then you attract these things. Most of us are waiting. You can do that, but you end up waiting for something that will never come. So the key is stay consistent. Think about who do you want to be, and remove the ego. So what's the ego? The ego is you open up the door for somebody. They don't tell you thank you and you get upset. That's your ego. Because we're always expecting something in return. With the Prophet ﷺ, Yusuf was thrown in the well. ﷺ. He was able to forgive his brothers instantly. Why? Because if you see somebody, because suffering is a choice. If somebody steals from you, and if you saw within their soul what happens to them, you feel nothing but compassion. Somebody backbites you, you feel nothing but compassion. That's the way the Prophet is. And we all have heard the stories. So now you got to try to emulate that throughout your day, where you don't try to fall from grace. And if you can stay consistent, then you can upgrade. Then Allah says, okay, I will give you more now, hikmah. Because this hikmah, you cannot go and get. Allah has to give it to you. And it's a download within our system. And then you have a different reality. But it's hard. Changing
it is hard.
You
It takes practice. Yeah, it takes
Yes.
time, it takes practice, it takes commitment, and you do sometimes need to speak to somebody in order to hold you accountable at times. So when even role models in the community that are, putting themselves at service like yourself in order to build, these mindsets. It's really important. So I really do appreciate what you do and how you continue to do it. It's absolutely essential. I think what you've highlighted and my takeaway from that is, obviously being present, being mindful, being absolutely compassionate, all these virtues and values that we forget. It's so simply said, but we don't embody it in our actual everyday living.
Let me give you one example that people don't understand. We talk about forgiveness. We want Allah to forgive us. We forgive people. So I say, okay, do you forgive your ex-husband? Do you forgive the person who, molested you or raped you? I said, yes,
Yeah.
okay, I forgive him. Okay, your ex-husband's going to come in the room. Oh, no, I can't handle it. Then you haven't forgiven him because you still carry that emotion energy-wise. Forgiveness is when you think of that person and your body doesn't remember all those negative moments. And most of us wake up to this past of hurt and grief, and we're in survival mode. There's a thing called the observer effect in quantum physics, that wherever you put your attention, the electron will appear. But if you didn't give it attention, the electron appears everywhere, because in our life, we have an infinite amount of possibilities. I could end up in prison. I could end up Hafiz of Quran. I could end up next to the Prophet. All possibilities exist in our life. Allah has given us that option through free will. It's wherever we give our attention. But if every day we wake up and the attention is about the person who betrayed me, the person that made me angry, now I'm going to look for the next person that made me angry, the next person that's betrayal. Forgiveness, they've done a meditation where they've tested people's jumping ability.
Yes.
And then they had them do a forgiveness meditation. And then they had them jump again. Everybody jumped higher. So it's not only spiritual, it's physical, that weight that we hold on to. And Maulana was talking about... Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please go ahead. Go ahead. No, the Maulana was saying...
Maulana was talking about it's our actions. It's not about prayer. Parents say, how do we become a good parent? I said, it's not the prayer. Even though prayer is there, it's important to pray on time. It's important to pray with your kids. It's when your kids see you hit with adversity, do you have despair? Or you, like Imam Hussain alayhi salam says, I will never sell my soul. I could give bay'ah to Yazid. I never will. I'm free. I'm going to die that way. Do you represent that? Imam Hussain alayhi salam doesn't need our pity. His 2 rakat prayer, he was so present with Allah, had more joy than anything me or you could do. But at the end, when all of his family was gone, he asked us, who's there to help me? Everybody's already gone. Who's he talking to? He's talking to us. But if you're not consistent and you can't forgive people and you become angry and you lie, steal, and cheat, and you can't think greater than the way you feel and the body's taken over, just like if you're trying to lose weight and that donut is in front of you, you just cannot put it down, even though you ate 32 donuts 2 hours ago. But if you decide to make a change and not the same choice as yesterday and put the donut back, and you do that consistently, your life changes. The same with prayer. If you could just learn, pray. And then at the end of prayer, ask yourself, how did I do? Where did my mind wander? Okay, that wasn't bad. This time it's going to be better. And then all it takes is one spiritual prayer where you don't think. You're now just the awareness and you're completely in the presence of Allah. That's a completely different prayer. Scientists are now figuring out that's how you heal people. But we have this. And I think our legacy should be like the Imam Ali alayhi salam. When he passed away, he was helping so many people that nobody knew about. And I think that's what we have to do. We have to grow to a point where it's not only about our career, our family, and our kids. What is the mission that we're having for Allah that's greater than ourselves? And what habits can we do today to get there? And that's what I study. I study successful people to see what did they do. And we could just emulate it, and nobody was better than the Prophet than that.
Absolutely. We have so much. We have the role models. That's so true. And a lot of people always say that because it's in the past, because it's the infallibles, we cannot compete, we cannot compare. Syed, what is your thoughts on that? We do have 10 minutes. I want to get your thoughts on quickly as to how also what firstly, I know our brother Hussain has mentioned meditation. When I mention that to my clients as well, they kind of get scared, not understanding what it means. is it something that I even explained that it actually will help you concentrate in your salah. It will actually help you have more focus. So what are your thoughts on that? Because, being present and having that mindfulness way of thinking is not that simple without even understanding how your mind and body works. And meditation gives you so much power, as Brother Hussain has said, and it can actually help. Well, we never hear this in our Islamic lectures about having meditation, because a lot of the times it's never really mentioned. What is it about that? Maybe it's because of the word itself, that it's in sort of relation to another religion, or whatever it may be, but it's absolutely powerful, and we never ever use this. So many people that I know have got professions and even Islamic understanding, but they hardly mention meditation.
Yes, I mean, meditation is a requirement of human beings. I mean, well, even if you don't believe in any religion, you would not say that meditation doesn't work. And there have been tests around the world, in non-Muslim world, in communist world, in atheist world. They separated the groups of people and treated them. I mean, they were ill and they were treated in hospitals. And the one group was told to meditate or pray or do whatever they believed, and the other group was told not to go near anything like that. The group which was meditating or praying or doing salah or dua had a better success rate in recovering than the group who did not do anything at all. So it is important. But as far as Muslims are concerned, we have two responsibilities. First of all, we should believe that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to do is not without wisdom. We believe Allah is wise, and a wise being would not tell you something which is not wise. So if He tells us to pray, there is a benefit. And one of the benefit is meditation, and meditation does help us. And when we believe and pray as a Muslim that this is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm showing my obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then meditating it, the reward and benefit becomes double. Because you not only gain physically in this world, you also gain in the world hereafter. And spiritual benefits are not only restricted to you. When you meditate, you become a better person. So the side effects extend to others as well.
Right.
Absolutely. No, it's so true. Brother Hussain, what's your experience about people sort of, quite reactive towards meditation?
So I have a background in studying spontaneous remission, because about 5 years ago, where doctors have told people you're going to die, you have 2 weeks to live. So one of our students that was being enrolled in our school, we were interviewing him, and the father said, I was going to die, had meningitis, had 2 weeks to live. And I also know the doctors that treated him. And he said, we had 2 weeks to live. Because we all know stories of people who go to the Hajj or the Haram of Imam Hussain or to Sayyida Zainab, and they're healed. So what happened? He prayed to Abu Fadl Abbas, and he said, I just want to help you like you helped Imam Hussain. I want to help my kids, and Allah, let me live in this world a little bit longer. Spontaneous remission happened. He told me the story. He's talking about angels. And by the way, this happens to non-Muslims too, not just Muslims. So then I asked Allah, I said, show me how that happens. Because we know all miracles happen within science. They don't break the rules of science within you, Allah. Show me how. And then I watched the video and it changed my life. And I just started studying spontaneous remission, all the cases. And there's 3 common components. You had to surrender, believe, and submit to somebody, something greater than us. So now when I deal with drug addicts, I deal with failing marriages, that's the component. Now, if you could just think greater than your environment and feel that you're not doomed, because we have so much despair in society, people are so lonely, we've given up on Allah. But if you could get to that point of that, you're in presence with Allah, because Allah is always present with you. If Allah wasn't giving you attention every millisecond, you would cease to exist. There's never a moment where Allah is not giving you attention. So now all we have to do is reciprocate that. That's where meditation comes, and that's where prayer. where you're in the presence of Allah. Because the meditations that the gurus come up with, or like somebody like Joe Dispenza, who I've seen him change thousands of lives. He has 100,000 brain scans between the heart, mind, and he can predict when it's going to happen, when the brain tumor is going to go away, when the genes down-regulate and up-regulate the good genes. He can predict it now. But leave that alone. We have it. We have Maftih Jihad. We have, Sahifa said, we have the Quran where God is speaking to us directly. We forget we have a speaking Lord and that we can speak back to through dua. We technically don't need any of it. But if we're present and we're sitting with Allah, but our mind is on eating something or that person who betrayed me, and we cannot turn that off. You know, if we see a person speaking outside to the wall, we'll call that person mad. You know, Khalil Jaffer has a whole lecture on this, End of Negative Suffering. And he predicates it from a book called The Power of Now, how just to be present. But he said, we call those people crazy. But what about if somebody were able to see within our own thoughts? We have 70,000 thoughts a day. 90% of them are the same thoughts as yesterday, and 80% of them are negative. So if my realization was not all my thoughts are true, and if I truly believe my thoughts have something to do with my future, I need to start thinking what I think about. That's why morning, Fajr prayer with a dua, and then you don't move. You convince your body that this is who you're going to be today. And that's the work. That's what we honestly have to do. You know, this analogy I'll use is there's a person hanging from a tree, and there's nobody there to help him. Because when do we change? Usually in despair. Now we have to be present with Allah. But I always tell people, why do you wait for that? Exactly. Why do you wait to get kicked out of the house, or you get caught cheated by your wife, or you get into drugs, and now you need Allah? Allah will take care of it, because Allah answers all your prayers of the heart, not the ego. I said, why wait? Why do you have to wait for that? Why not do it through joy and inspiration? So I think that's where we should go at that level. That saying, okay, I'm in complete control of my future, and my biography does not have to determine my destiny. But I got to make a choice. Syed, sister, all of us, we all have things to do to get closer to Allah. Every human being could say, okay, this is one thing that I got to reach. And I don't need anybody outside of me to fulfill that. I could do that within. And when you do that, that's where weird doors open up in your life. And the Quran
absolutely.
is filled with
Absolutely. I can vouch for that myself personally, going through that journey. And I know so many other clients of mine have gone through those transformations. I know you do that work yourself, and so does the Syed. You know what? It's been an absolute pleasure. I really, really appreciate your voice today, Brother Hussain, and as well, Syed, as always, giving, you know, our instructions and guidance as well. It's been an absolute honor to have both of you today speak. Inshallah, I would love to have you back. If there was one thing that you want to say, we've got a few seconds.
When I'm reading books about Imam Khomeini or Mutahari or Tabatabai, it's because of the scholars, or like Shomali, Bahmanpur, Syed. They've made it simple for us. Now there's like almost an attack against scholars saying, okay, we have science. The science is limited in terms of it's just what we know. It's evidence, which is the loudest language in the room. But we have it already from 1,400 years ago, and we have scholars who spent 40 years of their life to understand this and to give it back. But we're eluding them. We're saying, no, it's not important. It's like going to the heart doctor who needs to change your heart. Say, no, let my friend do it. He gave me advice. You'll never do that. Let's not do that with the scholars. If not for them, I'd be lost. Because scientists like Joe Dispenza, who could help people heal, could only do it for this world. What about the next? And only scholars could talk about that. Nobody else.
Absolutely. And I have the pleasure. No, exactly. I have the pleasure all the time to sit with scholars, and inshallah, you know, you have the pleasure tonight to have Brother Hussain. Thank you so much. And Syed Razavi again. Inshallah, you've had an amazing show like I have enjoyed tonight, and lots of takeaways, and hopefully lots of learning and information. We will be back, inshallah, next